Is it on? Yeah. What's up, guys? This is Micah from Mike the Great Studios, and today I'm going to give a review and breakdown of Stranger Things 5 episodes 1 through 7. At the time I'm shooting this video, I haven't seen the finale yet, so this is just me giving some like final thoughts on this season as a whole, or some aspects of the season that I thought were interesting, and just like a couple of little like theories and ideas like on or just like thoughts on like where I want the season to go later on. I might get to those. I'm this is like my first like full spoiler like breakdown video that I'm doing, so I don't really know where I'm gonna go with this or like how long it's gonna take me like talking about some of these aspects. But basically I'm like doing a breakdown of like talking about my own general thoughts on like each certain aspect of the season, what I thought was interesting about some of the different relationship dynamics between some of these characters and some of these different plot lines and where where I think where I think they frustrated me and like where I think they like really like shined like yeah the most throughout the series. But I kind of want to start off with my overall impression. So I actually started like getting invested into this show like in the beginning of just well, I mean just when season 3 came out because I was hanging out with a couple of friends at summer camp and they were having conversations about Stranger Things season 3 airing like way back in 2019, and then my family and I like somehow we had the interest in like checking it out, so we like watched the first season, the first two seasons, and then like we ended up watching through season 3, like watching the first 3 seasons like in the summer of 2019. So I was kind of late to the party, but like not as late. Like I still knew nothing about the show when some of my friends were talking about it at summer camp. But I actually I just got a, you guys can't really see it, but like it's the Stranger Things season 5 like poster up there of the four main boys like driving no riding their bikes like with 11 on Mike's bike. But anyway, like I watched started watching the first 3 seasons way back in 2019, and I eventually like fell in love with the show. It might be like one of my favorite TV shows of the last 10 years, and obviously it is one of the greatest like TV shows of the 21st century. So I mean, it'll make sense, but I could be biased because I haven't seen as many TV shows in the 21st century outside of like a bunch of Disney Channel shows that I grew up with back in the tens. But when it came to the season, I'll say this: what I liked was that it like added interesting new ideas, like while still feeling like a true continuation, like of the last season. Like it brought in some nice '80s influences, like which is what the show always does. Like you got a little bit of Wrinkle in Time in there, where like Holly, the Wheeler sister, like little sister Holly's tricked by like an evil spirit, like going into like this dream world. Like that's very much reminiscent of like Wrinkle in Time. I saw this the Wrinkle in Time movie back in the 2018 version. Like Charles Wallace is like manipulated into the dream space, like the like off world. Like yeah, it like I know a little bit of the Wrinkle in Time lore, so like I like how this show incorporated like some of that in here, and then you even get some like great new group dynamics. The Will and Robin stuff I think was a standout, and I think also like it was nice because the group finally they finally got to be all together in the same plot line. Like usually what's common in this show is that like our different like we would have like these different groups like for our main cast, like they're all linked together obviously, but like they're all doing like they're all like following in their separate storylines. Like sometimes the kids would be on their own certain subplot, or like and Hopper and Joyce would be over here, and like Nancy and Jonathan would be doing their thing. So much of the season, it has like a bunch of these different like plot threads like going out all throughout it, where like all of our characters are like have like a different end goal or like a different objective. Obviously, that was in season 4. This season, we finally got to see them together, and like they're. Well, I mean, they obviously we all also had like little different like moments where they like split up, obviously like Hopper and Eleven on their own adventure, like stuff like that, but like they're all they all have the same objective. They all know about Vecna, and they're all working together to track down Vecna and kill Vecna. So they all have the same objective, and they're running throughout like they're running through the same storyline. It's not like one group is all the way out in Russia fighting Demogorgons, or like there's a group in California trying to find 11, or like stuff like that. Like they're all in Hawkins, like trying to find this one monster, this one guy, and they're working together to catch him. So it was like a lot of like some of that like I enjoy, like just like especially with how big, you forget how big the cast is when you see them all together. But it was fun like seeing them all in like one plot line and all working together to stop Vecna. Um, there were like some criticisms I felt like with this season. Like I think the relationship continuations, most of them were a little frustrating, especially the Dustin stuff. But also like the stakes in this one, they don't feel as high as they did in earlier seasons. Like season 4 like had such a huge epicness to it. Like it felt like Game of Thrones, or like the event. I phrased it like when it first came out as like being like the Avengers Infinity War of the series, because it's like um even though I like criticized, like I just talked about them being like in different locations, the groups being like spread out, but I kind of liked that aspect of season 4 where it felt like a bunch of these, like, because all the storylines felt interesting. There was an epicness to like Hopper like fighting Demogorgons with Excalibur in Russia, and like just and even the iconic you got the iconic elements like Max like being raised up in the air, like Steve, Dustin, and Lucas watching. Like there were a lot of like more epics, or even the shootout at the house like with the Wheelers and Mike like in California. Like there was like season 4 like just had a like little epic sense, epicness inside of it, that I feel like there wasn't as much in this season. Like at least there was, it had some epic moments inside of it. Like I obviously like there's the volume 2 stuff with like just the all the stuff going on with like Steve and like Nancy, Dustin, and Jonathan in the Upside Down, like trying to survive, or like Hopper and 11 on a mission in the Upside Down. That's where you like look at some of it. Like now thinking about this, I don't know if there really was a lot of epicness in this, or I guess like Max and Holly like trying to make their way out of like Vecna's little hex mind world in the abyss. Like it had like some it had like some epic elements, but I mean like there's not as much like epicness as you get like from like the season 4 stuff, or even like the earlier seasons in like season 1, or like just, or even season 3, like the battle at Starcore. We haven't seen much of that yet, but it feels weird like with being the final conclusion, and like the way that they were selling it, that you wouldn't like, it's like you kind of want more from these episodes, especially we have 7 of these and we have like one episode left. Like I'm thinking like maybe they saved all the all the great stuff for like the final episode of the entire show, and then, but I think it didn't bring in any like great iconic new elements, like I said earlier, like Max being lifted in the air in the cemetery in season 4, iconic shot, iconic scene. um Nancy like in like the Nancy, Steve, and Robin in the attic, like against Vecna, when Nancy using like sawed-off shotguns and stuff like that. Like it hasn't we haven't gotten like any like, it didn't feel like we got as many like interesting like iconic elements in this season like that, or at least like like interesting moments, or like images like that stick out to you that I can talk about. Some little details in there, like um I'll talk about this, like the Home Alone sequence in the middle. It's interesting. I mean, just watching Steve holding a chainsaw in his hand. There's like some interesting. There's some interesting shots like in the Home Alone sequence where like they're boomy trapping the house for the Demogorgon, to trap the Demogorgon, but not as there wasn't much in the season that was as impactful as the earlier seasons. But I can go on rambling talking about all that. But like I'll get into some of the major character details, but like the characters in this one, like most of my favorite characters felt like a little like they it felt like they nerfed them down and like kind of underutilized them. Like you don't get much from like some of my favorite characters. I feel like they ended up getting sidelined a couple times, like mostly throughout the season, like 11, Hopper, Steve, Joyce, Lucas. Like you don't really get a lot from some of these characters like that you have gotten from previous seasons that made them. And it feels like with most of them, like we lose some of the stuff that made them like that made them interesting characters in the first place. Like so, I mean, if just I could talk about like yeah some I'll get into like some of the specifics like in a second, but I mean I think we had to promote a couple of different characters like Holly or Will to front and center, or at least like give them a little bit more depth, just so. And in doing so, like we kind of like had to like nerf some of our like original cast members to a point where like they just they just weren't able to take some of these guys in like very interesting places. But I can get into those in a sec. Overall, like I think this season was okay, but it feels like the most frustrating, like controversial of the seasons because like it had so many like it had so many interesting elements, new influences inside of it that work. But it like misses like some of the iconic moments of the earlier seasons, as well as like it it undermines some characters in a way that I don't think works. So like it got some things right, but like I think it got some things wrong at the same time. So I didn't mean to. I wasn't planning on talking about that for like 12 minutes. I had a lot of like overall thoughts this season. I was hoping to go like I was hoping to talk about that for like like 5 or 6 minutes. I apologize, guys. But we can just get into like some of like the specifics on. Sorry, I'll go into some of the specifics on the episode. So I'll start off with like the group dynamics, everything we see in episode one. Um, I so it's interesting because they've kind of turned like our little group, our team into like this group of rebels or like Avengers. Like you get some like Star Wars vibes from it a little bit because like they now have their headquarters and like their own their headquarters at a radio station, and the young adults are kind of like the supervisors. And Murray is the team's like supplier that's sending them in weapons and like little gadgets like from outside of Hawkins and stuff like that. So they it's interesting. I talked earlier, yeah, obviously about like it's cool that like our group is now finally together. All of our whole cast is like all in the same storyline together, and some of what makes that cool is like they've turned into this like team of rebels like from Star Wars, or like they have their own base and they're like forming missions and like they're doing like a bunch of these like little uh, um I forgot what the word was, crawls. Like they're running like these little crawls like under like trying to track down Vecna and waiting for like little signals from the Upside Down, like where they'll find him next. And then like we gotta like we got something like all right, and we're gonna like perform like this little autopsy, like little missions, like go track him down like when we get something. So we're waiting for signals from the Upside Down, and Robin is like pretty much the radio host where behind the scenes, like so the public like Hawkins knows them as like this radio station that's um that's just running news stories like for like running day-to-day news stories from Hawkins. And then like behind the scenes they actually got their headquarters beneath that radio station, and they're actually running missions like Batman or like Justice League or Justice League superheroes or something like that. It's interesting, but it also makes you go like, when did they have time like to set all this stuff up, or like get the money for like getting some of this equipment set into place? How did Robin like register like a money for like to be able to run her own radio station? Like the poor ice cream lady. It's interesting, but I mean, like there's some plot holes like missing inside of that, but it's nice that they've turned them into like this team of rebel spies or something like that, or like I'm missing like better ways to phrase that, like mostly, but Robin as like a radio host is interesting, and like just the supervisor running the radio station. They gave her like some great opportunities to like just be funny and comedic in some of these scenarios. I think if you're thinking about like who could like, if you're gonna like set it at a radio station and you're gonna have someone be the host, if you're gonna have someone be the host, like running a bunch of these different stories, like there's no one that better that they could have went with, um other than Robin. But yeah, I think my favorite moment is like they found a clever way to incorporate Diana Ross's song "Upside Down" into episode one, and use it as like this code uh to signal to signal the group of the next crawl. So like they're they have a mission that's in the upside down, and so what song is she gonna use to like signal them? The song "Upside Down" by Diana Ross. That's just pretty clever. um but it's just nice that like you go from like this group, what, like a bunch of normal civilians, like a couple of kids that play D&D, this town sheriff, a house mom, like they how and a couple of teenagers, like they've all turned into like this group of rebels, like with how the show has played out and like the adventures that these characters have been on, like, and it makes sense that you'd see them in this new light. And basically another detail in there is like I think it's odd because like they are still teenagers, but like so because they're still it seems like a little unnatural that these guys would be as intelligent or competent in like running some of these supplies. Like we get some like a lot of dialogue about Dustin being able to create satellite dishes and technology for the group, like just with his bare hands. Like we get some of that dialogue from Mike in Volume Two. Like I know how smart some of these guys are, but I mean they are still teenagers, so I'm not sure if the logic like really fits there. Like seems like too brilliant for like how like these guys like how these guys are able to put some of this stuff together. Um, so but it's nice we got this like new base like for some of our characters, like that they've turned into like this group working together at this new radio station. So that's my opinion on some of the radio station stuff. It's also I'll talk about the Steve and Jonathan stuff later, but I mean like it's not, you get like you get this fun moment of like Steve and Jonathan like competing for who's gonna get to the radio tower first, and like so fun. Like it's fun little moment where like yeah, it shows that they still have that how they're competing values for Nancy work, and that they're still a little bit at odds with each other. But fun little introduction to the season. That was my take on the introduction to the season. But then we'll like just like talk about some of the individual character moments next. Hmm. I also gotta be quiet because by the time I'm shooting this, it is now 10:14, and my family is getting ready to go to bed. But first I want to talk about the dynamics between Eleven and Hopper. So to start off, just starting off with Eleven in general, seeing her on this little journey. apparently she's on the run from the military, and she's doing a bunch of these little training exercises just to defend herself. And I think what I like what I like about this character is like the way that we've turned her into this like superhero in training. That she started off as this shy, checked out girl in the beginning of season 1 that is afraid and scared of herself a little and the people around her, and she doesn't really have the confidence to like use her powers in full with her full potential, and she doesn't know how and she doesn't know how to use it with her full potential, and she's just kind of shy and nervous and checked out. And then we've kind of taken her like on this journey through like finding friendships with the people around her, and it's turned her into it's turned her into this confident superhero basically. It's just like one of those classic origin stories of this unlikely hero that like sees herself as a monster for most of the season, that's afraid, and then she spent her entire life treated like a weapon and like with people hurting her, and she's kind of turned into this full-blown superhero. I think that's just like a very compelling arc for a person. Even like giving her her own kryptonite, um, nice new element in the show. Like, so she's a superhero that has huge strengths and like even like gets her own weakness. Um, but as cool as it is, like opening the season up, and like, but even rewatching the season, the first couple of seasons, and seeing like this whole journey that she's went on as a character, it felt like she was underutilized in this season a little bit. There weren't really interesting areas to take her, and Hopper too. But there's some stuff there, but it felt like this season didn't give her character like enough of like a forward arc. Like she has her and Hopper have that conflict, um, but like yeah, about Hopper not wanting to let her go, but like there's not much in these episodes where she's grown and changed like as much as like she's grown and changed throughout the first 4 seasons. Like just even like even the mini arc in season 4 for like her regaining her confidence back, that um through lines of dialogue with Mike, and like her coming to the terms that people are afraid of her, and it makes her like a little afraid of herself, and then even getting that last little monologue from Mike when she's getting beat up by Vecna in season 4, where he's like, "I love you," like, and she starts to realize that she's not a monster. And she actually has people that care about her. Um, so, and it feels like because of all that, they struggled a little bit to give her an interesting arc throughout these last few episodes, or at least like like give a an interesting like continuation of her arc, like add some new interesting elements inside of it. I mean, we we got some lines of dialogue between her and her sister, of her sister stating, I might need to rewatch a little bit of like volume 2 again, but just lines between her sister about, I guess it's like something like her not being destined like to have the her not being destined to like have this family of hers, that she belongs with her sister in dying in the upside down, like staying like as it collapses, that 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 her sister like knows what her actual fate is destined to be. Um, you get some of those. You get some of those. So you get some interesting stuff like that. Kind of continues her arc, but like not in an interesting like not in like an interesting visible way. I don't even know like where they're going with that, or they're trying to imply, I guess, that she belongs that she belongs with her flesh and blood, that her sister like knows what's best for her, and like knows I'm missing the word, like knows her weaknesses and her struggles like more than Hopper does. Like so you get like you get like some of that in there like so or like understands her obstacles a little better than Hopper does. This is the best way to phrase that. But I mean, there wasn't. It felt like there wasn't much interesting stuff that they could have done with 11 in the season, or as much as I like wanted there to be. But there's there's a little something interesting about like there's some interesting stuff that you get like from that dynamic between her and Hopper a little bit. Like we get like somewhat of an arc from Hopper, like slightly, like him learning. We obviously learned from the last season that what he needs in his life is this new found family that he has in order to like keep in order to keep him moving, in order to keep him moving forward, like his romance with Joyce and like his father-daughter relationship with 11, that he's found this new daughter and he realizes that I can't I can't lose this because I've I've gotten this second chance to like be a father again, and with even with how powerful she's become, I know that she might understand like her limits. I think that's where I was trying to go with like that Collie, like her 8, like she understands like her limits, like 11's limits, like better than Hopper does. Like so, it's like Hopper knows that 11 might understand like her limits a little better than he does. So, but with everything that's happened, what he's like gone through, like losing his first daughter, he's like still in that mindset of like I I can't lose what I already have. It's not just like about like trying to protect her like from the military, which obviously it is, but like if this Vecna guy like gets a hold of her, then if something happens to her, like I lose my second chance. And like what kind of a man am I if I don't have if I without this new like found daughter that I have. So so because of that, he's like trying to like he's holding her back without telling her. He's trying to hold her back without telling her that without telling her that she's as strong. Like he does these things like where um they're performing they're performing this training exercise, and like he's giving her the timestamp that she wasn't actually given. Like he's telling her that, oh, you missed the count like by this much. Like he's doing all this stuff because so he's like trying to keep her he's trying to distance her from like seeing her actual potential. So just so that just to keep her safe. And it's nice like it's nice that you get that you still like have more of that, like more of that little arc from him of like or that little dynamic of him trying to just be this protective father. But um just like once he starts coming full circle and she actually like passes some of these tests, like while they're in the upside down, where she's like able to make the jump and then like actually like um just excel on her own, like he actually starts to come open to like trusting her a little bit more. As like if you really think about it, like he hardly ever even sees her in action. Like when you think very closely, like these two characters like don't have as much time in the show as you would think, because like well, obviously they didn't even know each other in season 1, but like in season 2, like he is her father figure, yeah, obviously in season 2, but like after they get into the fight in the house, then he kind of like then they kind of like split off in the other branches. Like she goes to see her sister, and then he's helping Joyce and Will out with Will's episodes and all that stuff like that. And then season 3, they're in their own adventures, and season 4, he's all the way out in Russia and she's all the way out in California. So they haven't really gotten as much time in the show as you would think of, despite them being a father and daughter. So he hasn't really seen as much of her skills and capabilities, like the way that she has. Like she understands her progression a little more. But with everything that's happened, you still have this guy that like um he has this newfound daughter that all he sees in her is like that he sees someone he cares about in another chance to like do what is right and like protect his child. So he's like shielded, like he's got this mindset in his mind about like about protecting her, but he's missed it that that sometimes in life you gotta let go, and that you're that these kids of yours, like they'll find the progression themselves a little bit. But I think there'll be an interesting way, like interesting places to take this, like adding Kali like back into her life, where now he's kind of gotten this back and forth, this conflict with him and Eleven's sister about him understanding her limits versus Kali understanding her limits, and I think with the way like Kali comes at it is a little concerning, and has an unreasonable sense in it, because especially I think it's biased because like from the audience perspective, and obviously the characters perspective, like we understand Hopper's relationship with her, we understand Hopper's relationship with Eleven better than she does, and and it's even set in stone, like with the show, like she only spent like an episode, like only one episode with Eleven, and and like one moment from their childhood, and she like it was like I'm her. She puts it down as like I'm her sister. Like I know what's best. I've known her like longer than you have. Like since before you have. Like I know what's best for her. But yeah, you only got like a one week with her or so, and like a few memories from your childhood. That's not really a strong argument for why you're calling the shots on where you're saying that you understand the limitations and capabilities of Eleven more than Hopper and us as the audience do. So could have written her a little better. But I mean, final closing thoughts on this. Like, as frustrating as it was, like there was some missteps with the dynamic with the dynamics with Hopper and Eleven. There was some new stuff in there, but like I think it felt underutilized in a way, because as compelling as it was that he's like kind of like starting to see kind of starting to see her full potential, and he's learning to let go, he's learning to like back off like just a little bit. We still have kind of seen that overprotective side of him already. It still like rehashes some stuff a little bit, and like the way that it tries to progress Eleven's journey, like finding something new, like about her. There wasn't a lot of like interesting new stuff within that, but still, talking about Eleven in general, like going back to what I said, um, just a character that like you've actually seen her like on a full journey, like just going from this shy, like from this confused little girl treated like a weapon to a superhero. Um, best I can touch on all that stuff, but I lingered on that a little too long. Um, so next, let's talk about Holly Wheeler. I gotta keep drinking this monster because today I've been up for like 13 hours. No, I've been up for like 13 or 15 hours. Um, so this is most of what I think my thoughts on Holly are coming from just the behind the scenes aspects of the show. What I mean about it is about this is like the actress that they got for her. Like there were a few issues. Like number one was her age, and number two was her acting in general. Um, so if so, just like one thing to keep in mind to remember, Holly in season one is supposed to be 3 years old, according to dialogue from Lucas. Like, she said no, and yes, your 3-year-old sister says more. And so, so that's set in stone, like in the series. And then season four takes place 4 years later, meaning that in this season she's supposed to be 7 years old. The actress that they got for Holly is 14. So she's literally like half she's like half the age, like she's half the age that her character is supposed to be. Well, I mean, another half of the age that her character is supposed to be in this season. Her character in her the character that she's playing is half her age. And when you're really thinking about it. And I wouldn't have had any issues with it if she didn't look like a 14-year-old. I mean, cuz she's not just, it's not like they got a 10-year-old to play the role. They didn't even get a 12-year-old to play the role. They got an actual teenager to play a 7-year-old to play a kindergartner. So I think the way the like with the way that they do that math, and like even like just knowing that there's just a 1 year gap between the last season and this season, the casting and the age difference, it felt a little distracting. Like, I know they haven't really ever cared about like quick quick ages, like quick agings throughout seasons. Like, I believe Erica in like that the actress who plays Erica was like 9 years old, like when she first showed up in season two. Now like she was like 9 or 10 years old, and I think the actress is now like 19. So they haven't really cared about like the different like the ways that these guys quickly age. But I mean, with this character, and because of how young she's supposed to be in season one, and how the way she's been treated as a background character commonly, like it feels weird that like in only 1 year, thinking about the logic, like how in only 1 year of time, a character will go from "Mommy, it's snowing," looking outside, to calling everyone downstairs for breakfast, looking like a teenager, listening to rock songs on her little speaker system, just in like a 1 year period of time. Like the way Holly ages in this season, in this series, like she's even older than older than 11 and all the other kids were in season one. She's 14, and I was 7, like way back in the year 2011, and I was not as competent as this version of Holly would be, like, but it just feels like they didn't put as much like understanding and effort into like um, going through like the age, going through the age bracket here, like looking at just like like having an understanding of how a 7-year-old is supposed to look. Like if they casted somebody that was like 10 or 11, like I wouldn't have any problems with it. But no, the actress is 14. It's funny because there's even like a moment in well, like the first episode where where Karen is asking, like the Karen and Ted are like having a little argument. She's like, "How old is your daughter?" And like, "You don't even know how old your daughter is." I'm like, well, in his defense, neither do the Duffer Brothers. So I can slightly see a little bit why they did it, because like you're not gonna have like maybe the like child labor laws like these days are getting a little bit more and more strict. But I mean, you don't want to show people these days, like you don't want to show like a 7-year-old getting like kicked and like thrown around by you don't want to show a 7-year-old getting thrown around by monsters, and like getting like falling down like um these little little catacombs and caves and stuff like that, or like yeah, or whatever, like the her and Max like her and Max fall in a ditch, like in this last like in episode 6. It's like, so child labor laws. I mean, they get more serious these days, and also it's like just doing this the safety of like who can perform these stunts and like stuff like that. You can understand a little bit why they did. But anyway, I'm rambling. I'm some of these things I'm rambling a little too longer than I thought. I don't know how long I don't know how long I talked about the Eleven and Hopper stuff, but got some interesting opinions on all this. But anywho, like the Holly plotline itself, there was a way it was done right, but there was also a way it felt a little sudden. Like it feels like the characters. It's funny because it feels like the characters are just as confused about Holly's sudden involvement in the season as the audience is. Like you get several times in volume 1 where they're like, why would he go after Holly? Like after all this time, like it doesn't make sense. Like you get that kind of that line from Mike, you get it from Dustin, you get it from Hopper, like where they're all saying this stuff like, why Holly? Like this doesn't fit. Like this doesn't fit with what we've been doing this whole time. Like all of a sudden he goes after Holly after all this time. And right here we're puzzling too because like how sudden it seems, because you have someone who was just a minor character for like 4 whole seasons, and she's finally been promoted to being like probably even like the co-lead of the season. Like her and Will, I feel like her and Will like were almost the leads of this season, like in a way, like but almost like they're not front and like she's not front and center, but I mean she's obviously like she's a very important key piece to the plot of this season. She like because she's the main plot device of this season if you really think about it. But I think they played it out right because she's always been a minor character. You're not gonna like just immediately promote her to being like the star of the show like this late into the game. Like that would be a weird detail. Like the final season of Stranger Things, the lead character, the star of the show is gonna be Holly Wheeler. Like that's kind of weird. But so they decided to use her as a plot device and where she where she is this main pivotal piece, like one of the pieces of Vecna's main mission, and she gets kidnapped and we have to track she gets kidnapped and we have to track her down. So she's she's a plot device, like, but she's not the one that is being given like this big arc here where she's the one who has to save the day and step in and like be like and play a huge role in stopping Vecna and and the Demogorgons and like save the world here. Like, but she gets a little arc in here, but it's not like we have to like promote it like where her story is like front and center, like where her arc is the main one that we're centered on. She's a plot device. She's like this thing that that she's like a piece of this thing that we have to like put a stop to, and that we have to fix. It's not like she's associated, like she's getting associated with our main group here, and it's just so thinking about that. She has a mini arc of like not being afraid anymore, and just kind of just kind of putting her bravery and like just putting her confidence into the things that she loves, and just thinking happy thoughts, finding her Kate Bush and stuff like that, all the stuff that Max told her in that 10-minute monologue. But it's not like we have to like promote her to being like the to being like the main centered protagonist. She of course like does play a key role in this season, but just as a plot device mainly. I wish I had better ways to phrase some of better ways to phrase some of these things, but that's pretty much what she is in this season. She's a plot device. Like you can't bring her front center like this out of the blue, but we can give her a mini arc of just not letting like these little demons inside her head like haunt her, and like just gaining more like just like gaining like more self confidence basically. So next, while I'm talking about, I mean, yeah, like I just told her, like I went on rambling, like I said two things, like when I first started talking about Hollywood, like the two things that frustrated me. I talked about her age, but I also brought up her acting. Um, yeah, I only talked about her age. Her acting in in this season was a little distracting. Um, Even though she is a 14-year-old actress, obviously I haven't seen what else this kid has been in, but it feels as if like they didn't know how to teach her like how to emote, like show some actual show some like actual emotions in some sort of sequences, or at least make them feel real, because there are some scenes where it feels like she's overselling a line, or she's not giving the line enough. I don't know how to phrase it, but like even little moments like with the way she does her line delivery, like what are you doing here, dipshit? Like some of what the way she does her performance, like it felt stale. It feels stale but overplayed, like a weird mix of like stale but overplayed, played a little bit. But to be honest, I haven't really done theater. I'm only like 21 years old. I've only done like two two whole theater shows in my entire life, but I can understand the fundamentals of acting because I was in fundamentals of acting last year. There's just so I understand like how emoting works a little bit, but like it felt like it felt like she was a little stale. Like they needed someone else to play the role. I just think that they did the. I mean, the casting was just wrong in general. Like casting a 14-year-old to play a 7-year-old child. But I if they were gonna do it, I think the actress either they needed someone else, or they needed to do a better job at coaching her on how to emote and how to do her line delivery. So next up we so I got a couple of other notes in here for as I've been reading this, I've been realizing I've been talking about a lot more of volume 1 than I have been talking about volume 2, but there's like some small details I can talk about in volume 2, like with some characters like arcs that trickle down a little bit into volume 2 that I can talk about. But right now we can get into the Dustin stuff. So I always kind of have to take like a drink in between some of these to catch my breath. Look. Water. Mm. Mm. You guys don't know the reason I'm trying to talk under my breath. I already said it, but like, it's I'm shooting this video like slightly late. So right here I want to talk about Dustin, and this what I really love about this season was that they gave us probably like the most broken version of Dustin that we've ever seen. Uh, and it's interesting, like just because like out of the four main boys, Dustin has always been like one, like he's been the one with like the least amount of like least amount of like sentiment or like depth. Like he's just like he was the fun, charming member of the party that cracks jokes with the group. He's commonly played as comic relief. Like Mike, like when I say he's like the one when I say Dustin's was the one with the least amount of depth, like Mike has his relationship with Eleven, and Lucas has his whole thing with Max, and like trying to be there for her, and like just and just trying to fit in. Like in high school with his basketball buddies and stuff like that, and like learning his play. And then Will has his whole identity crisis thingy. So the other three like have something in their life, like a big emotional depth kind of thing that's going on in their life. And Dustin was like the normal one. He was the one that he doesn't have as much he doesn't have as much weight on him. He's just the fun guy that respects the rules of the party, that like um that just treats that just goes by the rules of friendship. He's just the chill guy that likes to play D&D. And whenever his friends get into fights, like he knows the rules of friendship. He's just like the simple one, and who gets played as comic relief pretty like a lot of times. Like he's the butt end of jokes pretty often. But this season was very cool because like where this the last season left off, they finally let his emotional side come to life, where he has somebody in his life that meant so much to him with the loss of Eddie. And it kind of like it makes us care about Dustin in this season than we ever have. Like more than we have in previous seasons. And we've always cared about Dustin in previous seasons because like how charming he is and like how likable he is, because he doesn't have like a bunch of this like emotional weight on him, like with the way that his storyline works. And even though we see him in this like new place in like this new place in life, like it feels fitting. It feels like a natural. I guess like Dustin might be like the best exception out of all these characters. When I said in the morning, like when I said earlier, like the way that it like continues some of these arcs, I think Dustin might have been the one exception, like out of all of them, with the way that they continued the way that they continued his arc, and like his and just the way that his character, his emotional side, like actually comes out in this season. I'm like I think it was just like a nice way to show like how his friendships actually work with these different groups of people, and how and what happens to him like when he loses somebody very important in his life. And I don't know if you guys can hear that, but my dogs are barking outside. Anyway, as cool as it was, I think some of his interactions, it's nice like it led to some nice like emotional depth, obviously, like I said earlier. But like the way that some of the characters respond to his behavior, it seems a little unreasonable. Like with his I'll talk about the Steve stuff in just a second. But like starting with like his main party, um the way that they're obviously trying to like defend him, like they're obviously trying to like defend him in the like in this place, like where he's like getting harassed by like all the basketball buddies. And they're trying to back him up, like saying that he has to like let this go, so that they can just stick to the task of killing Vecna, that he can't like dwell on this for too long. But I feel like the way that it plays out, like there was some truth like to how they try and reason with him. But the way that some of it plays out, they live in like with the mindset like he's lost his mind. That this whole tragedy that's happened with Eddie, like it's hit him like incredibly wrong in the head, that Dustin is crazy for like living with his feelings, like that he would like be wearing this Hellfire T-shirt in public while the town of Hawkins is obviously like in like disdain for Eddie Munson and like the Hellfire Club. And they're saying like Dustin, if you keep doing it this long, like you're gonna get your if you hold on to this for so long, you're gonna get yourself in trouble. That we already have like one target on our back, like like trying to fight Vecna. You gotta like stop doing this so that you can get this, or else you're gonna have the second target on your back, and then obviously he does because like these basketball buddies will like jump him like later on, but there's truth a little to what they're saying, but what the way it comes out is like as if like they're phrasing it as if like you lost your mind, Dustin. Like I don't know what you're thinking, like thinking where you're going with this, and like it seems as if there's not like they don't like give as much a sense of reason or like a sympathy for Dustin inside of this moment where they understand they're treating it as if he's crazy, but like they understand like how much Eddie meant to him in the past, and like even what he means for their group in general. Um, just like because of like the big key role that not only just for one is the big key role that Eddie played like Eddie played in like finding them a place inside of high school. They should all know obviously what Eddie means for their party. Like Will gets a pass. Like Will gets a pass. Like he because he wasn't there. He was out in California for all of season 4. If you really think about it, he technically Will doesn't even know who Eddie is because he moved out to California at the end of season 3, and then like the others like they all like graduated, like what they all like went into high school, and then Eddie dies before like so Will doesn't even know. Will gets a pass, but Mike and Lucas do know who Eddie is, and even though like even though Lucas is making buddies with all these basketball buddies a little, like he still understands Eddie's dynamic with Dustin. So that's one thing. Eddie's importance to like their identities in high school. The other thing is you have the scenario where this guy who spent like an entire season just in hiding and running away from danger, and just being accused of being a murderer the whole time. That's just that's just one piece on it, and just in an act of in one final act of running away, he actually like he actually comes to terms to risk his life just for buying like a couple of these guys some time, and runs into an army of bats like after being on the run and just like running away from danger the entire season. Like that's the whole thing that we got from him is that like he's a coward. Like whenever he sees danger, that he just like runs away, and he finally and he finally charges like in an act of bravery, running towards this army of bats, and for what, like just to buy the group some time. So out of all that, in one act like of bravery, the one act he does of bravery is risking his life, sacrificing his life for this town that hated him, and even like he was a guy that was looking forward to graduating, so he died doing something that he didn't have to, and like that went against everything that he stood for. So he died doing the one thing that he stood for, and just because just to help these people that he cares about. And after like with how much of heroic, like how like I don't know what the word is, like how just how sweet of an act that is, like just to sacrifice yourself doing something that you didn't have to. But anyway, like in that act of bravery, like even in death, like after he like gave his life for this town that hated him, instead of like giving him congratulations and like congratulating him and like him like dying like with honor and respect from the town for like doing this action, the town is still like masking him as this villain and as this monster, even in death, like writing like horrible things on his tombstone, like burn in hell and stuff like that. And so, like, if I lost my life, or if I had somebody in my life that gave their life like doing something very noble and very heroic, then I want that person to get very good recognition, especially like when they're bold enough to like go against like everything that they stand for. So it's where you can understand Dustin's frustration on this whole matter, like clearly. That's where, but they treat it as if it's just weird that Dustin is the only one that is upholded like against like the way that this town is treating Eddie. That obviously I know that the others care, like the others cared about Eddie a little too, and like what they say is that he would care about like trying to find Vecna, but they're treating it as if Dustin is crazy. I think that's where like some of the slightest frustration is, and then like it got a little worse. Like once you get to some of his interactions with Steve, that I can talk about some of that a little bit later. But with you wanted some of the interactions with like with the group members, like with Dustin, to be a little bit better. But I mean, it's it's nice that we were able to see Dustin in a whole new way, where Dustin was already a fan favorite of the entire series, and then they made him like so compelling, like for a whole new reason, like once we got into this season. So a couple some nice new good stuff with Dustin. So next we can talk about um I want to talk about like in this next section the dynamic and the relationship between Will and Robin. So this this was like some of the best like fresh new when I was talking about earlier in this section, like when I was talking about great new group dynamics. This one was probably like the big standout, because when you think about it, this is the first season where we've seen these two interact with each other before. Like, and like some of with how big with how big our cast is, like we forget that like some of these characters have never interacted before, and like how good it would be like finally seeing them on screen together. Even with Steven, like if you think about it, Steve and Dustin like didn't meet each other until that like train track sequence in season 2. So like once you get some of these like new nice interactions, it just feels like nice and fun and fresh, and like adds new levity to the group, and it certainly like makes these characters a lot more fun and a lot more likable once they start to get to know each other a little bit more. And I think the standout here was the dynamic between Will and Robin, where um, even before they interact, you kind of start to realize that they're a lot more in common than you really think. They have like similar struggles and similar relationship troubles. Like they're going through the exact same struggle, obviously. And but the only difference is Robin has kind of like has more confidence in this identity that she's upholded. Um, Maybe slightly, somewhat. Like she hasn't really come open to everybody about the whole thing. But I mean, she has like slightly more confidence, like in acceptance in this identity than Will has. So through these interactions, like it's interesting because like she kind of brings something out of Will in showing him that he just kind of has to find his beat, like his place in this world, and just like learn and just like learn how to like learn how to like gain his confidence, and just learn to like let go of like some of these struggles that he's had, like embrace his identity, like find his fitting. And even though we've seen Will's interactions between Jonathan, Mike, Joyce, but like yeah, they've always been able to bring something out of him. But like I think the best that we've like had like lectures for Will, like somebody able to bring something out of Will, to give him like his sense of confidence. Like I think it was done mostly. Robin did it the best, like in this season. And you have this nice little moment in volume two. All their volume one stuff was good. Um, Even with her, like him asking him having these questions on like how did you know that you were gonna feel comfortable when you started dating Vicky? Yeah, I mean she just felt comfortable with me like just immediately afterward. Some nice stuff in there, but even in volume two, like you have the whole scene the whole scene when they're on top of the radio tower, and he's asking her about like how who she like how it feels to like just like come out to people, like which obviously the thing that he struggled to do is like just telling everybody that he's different, that he's afraid of like facing the fact that he's different. And obviously Robin like being okay with the fact that she's different. um you have this like nice little moment like where she tell where he asks her like who else knows about her relationship with Vicky, and she's like, "Oh, the first person I told was Steve." And he's thinking like, "Wait a minute, Steve? Like you're Steve?" Like hearing like it's interesting. Like another cool thing about that is like using Steve as like this um plot like mechanism like that is able to bring life and confidence out to characters like when he's not even in the scene. Like she just like tells him like, yeah, Steve is the only one that I've told that I was able to reach out to first, and he was okay with it. And like where Will's thinking like, wait a minute, Steve, like you're Steve, that uh hardcore douchebag Steve. He was okay, like you were okay like reaching out like just opening yourself out to him about about your true identity. And so it's where Will like realizes like in the whole conversation like I like Steve, but this is interesting that out of all the people that you could break out to confidence first, you chose like you can like that you were able to open yourself up to first, like it was the obnoxious jock. That's where Will, they don't clarify it fully, but like later on there are issues with how they do the coming out speech in the end, but like yeah, Will's coming out speech in episode 7, but like still this like from this whole like scene in the radio tower, him learning that Steve was the one that she was able to open up to, like it kind of shows him like it kind of brings something out to him that if Robin here, if Steve um if Steve like responded calmly, like was okay with like well that if Steve responded okay like to Robin opening up to her true identity, if he was like if he wasn't weirded out like when he found out her identity, then I can just open up to anyone. The obnoxious jock, like she opened up to the obnoxious jock, and he didn't respond any like he didn't respond any crazy. He just accepted her. Like that means like I can just be open to like my own friends and like my mother and my brother. Maybe Jonathan knows about maybe Jonathan knows that he's different, but like um it just shows him like the obnoxious jock that Robin opened up to the obnoxious jock about her identity. Will, if she did that, if Steve Harrington was Steve Harrington was able to accept Robin, he can be accepted by his own family. So it's just some like very nice impactful stuff like where you get the dynamic between Robin and Will, and even the way their personalities adjust, like where Will is like he's introverted but like chilling laid back but with a nervous emotional side to him, and Robin being like the quirky talks a lot kind of girl, like with she has the awkwardness she but the one thing that they both have in common is that they have the awkwardness inside of them, but like they have totally different personalities. It's similar to like what you love about the Steven Dustin stuff, like you have these two different characters that um even like once they like come together you realize that they have a lot more in common than you really think. And so I really dug like all the stuff between Will and Robin. Like they there was some execution issues in episode 7 where he does that full coming out speech. Like, I think it could have worked if they had saved it until after we had resolved like all this Demogorgon, like all this stuff with Vecna. Like, maybe Will could have done this whole thing like coming out to the group like maybe later after we've resolved this whole issue. I don't really understand why he has to. I don't, or what they're implying is pretty much like, oh, maybe, oh, Vecna, like he wouldn't have been able to face Vecna if he hadn't like come alive about this issue with him having superpowers and all of this. That he has to like gain his full confidence by coming out to the party about this whole issue. That just felt like a little weird kind of detail, way to add like way to emphasize things. But you know, like he got an interesting dynamic with Robin, and it was they were able to do some nice new stuff with him. Probably the best, I'll say, probably the best stuff in this season. I mean, thus far has all been like the Will stuff. Like, if you're like really thinking about it, him gaining superpowers and like him gaining his confidence through Robin and all that. But you know, thinking about it, I'm talking about I'm talking about this stuff a little out of order, like as I'm doing this video that is now an hour and 11 minutes long. But there was like a sequence with where he's like speaking to Max inside the Upside Down, and where Max doesn't even know the transformation that Will has gone through, like no, like knowing knowing like with the knowledge that she knows, like 11 is the all powerful one. But just it's an interesting detail where you see like Will go from Will just go from being just this like tag along sorry, the tag along kind of character, um and just to actually, he's the guy that's with that has superpowers now and is able to be awesome. Anywho, yeah, some of these are out of order, but like I spoke to I'm saying this is like this might be a little out of order because I already talked about Holly earlier, and I'm talking about Will, and now I've got to break down. I got to talk a little bit about Max. Like, I I don't really have much to say about the Max stuff other than it was interesting the way that they did it, like the way that they did the reveal that Max is alive, or her mind is actually there. It's just like in a different location in Vecna's world, and you just love it, like when she's able to reunite with Lucas, like or even reunite with the whole group in general. It's just like very impactful because thinking about it, like some of these characters she hasn't really seen in a probably I guess like I guess it's been like 3 years since she's really seen Will, because yeah, Will moved to California at the end of season 3. They never had a scene together in season 4 because she got like dismembered. She got like put in a coma like right before they came back, and like so there's like she got to reunite with Will, and like just like getting the reunion with her and Lucas, it's just like very satisfying when you get to see some of that stuff take place, and even like turning her into like this little mentor figure for Holly. Like it's nice like seeing Max in a new position, like where she's like she was like the main like tag along in season 2, like where she was being told about these monsters and the Upside Down and all that stuff, and now she's the one who's like um actually taking this girl around with her on missions, and then like not missions, I mean like to help it, like taking this girl around, like getting her involved in like these little escape plans. And it's nice that we've turned Max into a mentor for like another character, and even better, just like that she is the little sister of one of her best friends. It's just it adds like in some funny dynamics where she's like, stop pacing, you remind me of your brother, like stuff like that. Like, and I like that it's like she's still normal Max, like even like when her mind like her with her mind being in another location. And but that stuff was pretty interesting. So next up, some of this is where like I'm about to talk through a couple of my frustrating arcs. More of my frustrating arcs. There were more frustrating arcs in this season. Thinking about it, mm, Steve. Um, let's get into Steve. So this guy, this guy, I don't think they wrote him very well in this season. For whatever reason, like I don't know if like maybe it's because of like the way that they had to like close out some of these subplots, or like it could be even because like they didn't get like much time fleshing like some of this stuff out, and they had to focus on some other characters, or if the writing just put it in a place where he needed to be like up front, like in your face. But they wrote him like where he felt like more of a negligent idiot in this season, or like they made him a little bit too much of well, they wrote him with like too much incompetence, or like too much of unreasonable, like unsympathetic, like mindset inside of him. When it comes to like starting off, like obviously you got like the easy there's like the stuff with him and Dustin. Obviously, by the simple thing I'll talk about first is like the whole dynamic, like the feud with him and Jonathan, where he's like being competitive and like trying to show off in front, like trying to show off in front of this other guy's girlfriend. So the girl that like, even though she's dating somebody else, like he's like he's like proactively like like intentionally like trying to show himself off, like to win Nancy back. Like we all know what Steve is doing, and but he keeps like give like what like he keeps like using this alibi as like she's my friend. But you have these like moments like where he's well like what where after knowing like her parents her parents are in the hospital, and that her sister is missing, and like her sister is missing, Eleven and Hopper are stuck in the Upside Down, and the one thing that's on his mind first is like and him and Jonathan are like stranded in the middle of the street, and the one thing that comes to his mind first is like, you know, we should go to the hospital to bring Nancy some flowers. Like, that's the one thing with everything that's going on, with the world nearly coming to an end. All he can think about is getting Nancy some flowers and, like, gaining her approval. Like, it's like, even. Like, even if I'm, like, in one of these scenarios where we have matters that involve, like, life or death, the woman that's not in danger, that's not in danger, that's that has her parents in the hospital, you're thinking about being her flowers, bringing her flowers. Like the it's so clear as to what you're doing here, and the like with like leaving the alibi. His alibi here is like saying that she's my friend. I'm trying to take after my friend. We all know what you're doing, Steve. Like with especially with like the competitiveness towards Jonathan, he doesn't give as much well of an excuse to Jonathan, like saying that he's been acting like a total pothead weirdo the entire time since he's gone back from California. I mean, we well, like him and his little feud with Jonathan, like they wrote it like he felt like a little too in the face. Then there's the Dustin stuff, like the stuff between him and Dustin, like where it felt like he wasn't showing as much concern and sympathy for what Dustin is going through. Like I talked about Dustin, I talked about Dustin earlier, so you know like where my mind is on like what Dustin has experienced, like this guy that he knew for most of his life, that no, not for most of his life, this guy that he knew in high school that like gave him a place that gave him a place in high school, and then like became his friend, and what he went through, like sacrificing his life. And we know what Dustin has went through, but it feels like Steve, for most of these seasons, I know he comes to good terms with him in episode 7, but like for most of this season, they they made him like a little bit like neglectful toward Dustin, where first time like after seeing him like once he like walks to the van with his bike all beaten, his bike all broken and his face all beaten up, like when they're out, um, when they're out in the dark, like by the van, like when he first sees Dustin, he's calling him out for missing the crawl, and uh, and like he's his reasoning for that is like just thinking thinking like Dustin Dustin like he just like couldn't admit that he was wrong and like that he made the wrong decision and just like um taking after Eddie and then like looking for a fight against Hawkins, like trying to fire back at Hawkins for the way they've been treating Eddie, that he cared more about that than missing the crawl. For a job that Steve could have done himself, they do the back and forth between them, like with them trying to do the funny dialogue, like my mother could have prevented a power surge. I bet even your mother could have prevented a power surge. Like you're haranguing me for this job that you could have just done yourself. Like I don't know how technology works, but I mean Steve, like with the way the dialogue plays between them, like Steve is so he Dustin shows up to the van like all beaten up with his face bruised and his bike broken. Steve's best friend showed up like all beaten up, and he calls him out for not being there to do a job that he could have done himself. Just the scene right before this, Steve's like Jonathan is calling him out for like being like for like just thinking about bringing Nancy flowers, like just like thinking of like just thinking about like winning Nancy's affection, and Steve's like little excuse for that was saying like, "Oh yeah, I was just trying to care for my friend." Well, when your best friend shows up to your truck all beaten up, you're calling him out for doing a job that you could have done yourself. You're not you're not showing any concern. You're trying you're admitting that you have concern for like one of your friends. That's where you're trying to go with like on this whole excuse, like with the alibi, like this with this whole feud, like for Nancy's attention. Your big takeaway is trying to protect your friend or look after your friend, but you don't have a sense to like show any concern for your best friend. We know what you're doing, man. Like, come on. Like, this is so obvious, like, where this whole scenario is going. But, and especially, like, even, that was the one frustrating, the scene was, like, him and Steve, like, yeah, like, him and Dustin, like, in the truck. Yeah. And then, I think it got worse, yeah, and then you even see it a little bit more in Volume 2, like, where they have the little arguments in the Upside Down, and then like their conflict with each other like boils over, and Steve is saying all this horrible stuff about Eddie, and like where Dustin's anger like completely boils over, and then him and Steve like start to fall out. And when they posted this online, obviously like now all of the stuff like within the first episodes 1 through 7 is out there, but they posted this this little conversation online. I was seeing several people in the comments saying stuff like, "Oh wow, Steve, yeah, Steve was right saying this. I'm glad Dustin finally got all this information handed to him. Like he had to like wake up to some of this stuff." But like you're thinking, going back to what I just said, a guy that sacrificed himself when he didn't have to, like the guy the guy, he might have, maybe he died for nothing, I suppose, getting himself killed, but you gotta like show a little affection towards him for like doing this commitment, like coming out, like making this little sacrifice for himself that went against all he stood for. That was like a huge commitment that Eddie did. And we're showing support for Steve for like calling out Dustin on like some of this information. Maybe Steve is right, like a little bit, but this guy also hasn't been showing any affection or concern for his best friend the whole season. Like you gotta give at least Dustin like a little bit some love or like some credibility for like everything that's going on in this whole situation. But So a lot of the dynamics with Steve were pretty frustrating. Like probably like the most frustrating when it came to like nerfing. What I was saying earlier about nerfing the characters down, like just to like elevate like some of these new ones up. Like most of it here. I saw it with Steve. I still like him. That's where my frustration lies a little bit more because Steve is one of my favorite characters. But I think this these episodes just didn't do him any favors. Like he was the character that I had the most like frustration towards with how he like with how they handle like some of his dynamics and interactions, like in particular when it comes to Jonathan and Dustin. Um, we got one more episode left, but it's I guess to the exception like they might do like more with this going into the later into the last episode, but it's nice when they him and Steve him and Dustin like reconcile like in episode 7. Steve finally apologizes to him about the way that he's been treating him, and us noting like he thought like he was afraid of things being different, and that's why he's been a little like rejectful toward the situation with Eddie, because he was jealous of Eddie and afraid of what that might do to his friendship between him and Dustin. But so it's nice that they like kind of like reconcile in episode 7 where they have that little conversation, and yeah, and just knowing that they are best friends and that they actually care about each other. That's the one exception. Like that's another exception. Like I was saying, like Dustin, it makes you this season makes you care about Dustin even more, but it makes you this season actually makes you care more about Steve and Dustin's relationship a lot more. Like in a way, when they have this like little fallout where they fall out like in episode 5 where they have that little fight in the Upside Down. Like you care about their relationship a lot more than you ever have. Like which we've always cared about the relationship between these two guys, but with how they've behaved to each other this season, where their friendship is like starting to fall apart, it makes you care in a way. Like so, it's nice that they had that little reconcile in episode 7, but like most of it's just like most of the stuff with Steve was like a little frustrating in these couple of episodes. Um, then I don't have too much to say about most of the stuff that we've I don't know, we've gone over an hour and 27 minutes. Nancy and Jonathan have their breakup finally, so now we have the answer. So I mean, despite the Steve and Jonathan having their little feud in this season, we actually do get the answer in volume 2 to where Nancy's heart is going. So I don't know if Jonathan if Steve and Nancy are gonna get back together in episode 8 in the finale, but this these episodes like volume 2 makes it perfectly clear that Nancy and Jonathan have broken up. Where they have that my sister's moving stuff around in the other room, but they have that moment where everything's dying in the cave, where everything is melting in the cave, and they think they're gonna die, and they're actually confessing how they actually felt about each other. Like they were talking earlier about like trying to be honest with each other, and she's like, "Have you really been honest to me? You're saying I'm not honest with you right now, but have you been honest to me?" And the situation actually brings them out to like be honest with each other with how they really feel about each other, and like where she's saying stuff like, "I hated the clash," like he's like, "I hate how you're always drunk," and just just seeing like how their dynamic actually works, and that they could actually see each other more as friends, and that they do love each other, but just not in the way that them and us thought about their relationship, or how they love each other. That they see each other as like great friends, and it it makes sense. Like them. So what I think about them breaking them up, like it makes sense if you really think about it, because it feels right. Like the show the show hasn't really done much to make us care about Nancy and Jonathan's relationship. Like in season they tried a little bit in season one, like with her like falling for Jonathan instead of Steve, and Steve is becoming a little bit of a jerk. And then in season two, they end up on the same mission. And then they learn that they have they have romantic feelings for each other. But then it felt like once they did get together in season three, like it seemed like hollow, like the way that their relationship works. You don't really care about them as a couple. Like they're working as reporters and stuff like that together in season three, but the chemistry between them and the way they played out their dynamics, it just seemed kind of empty. They had some stuff in there, but it wasn't written in a way where it was interesting. And then like in season four, they're in two different plot lines, obviously. So and then Steve gets back into the picture. So they've done more showing Steve's romantic side with Nancy anyway than they have with Jonathan. So in a way, thinking about most of it, it feels right that Jonathan would be the one that doesn't have the romantic relationship at heart with Nancy, but he's still good friends with Nancy. Like they're still a duo. Like that'll always be like the case in this show. Like Nancy and Jonathan are a duo. Like they're a team. They associate the way their characters work. They've associated themselves like with each other more than they themselves have associated themselves with other characters. Like you say, like who is Nancy most associated with? She was most associated with Jonathan. Or who was Jonathan most associated in the TV show of Stranger Things? He was most associated with Nancy. So that'll always be the mindset in there. But they don't have to be looked at as a couple. They can be looked at as good friends. Um, so it feels right. I don't know where they're going with. They're gonna go with Nancy and Steve's relationship in the finale, but with the way this scene played out, like it it felt right. When you think about it. Um, then I guess one final thing to talk about in here was just like Vecna in this with this new. They don't do too much new stuff with Vecna, but Vecna and his plan, um, using this kids for like using these children for like this little convergence thing that he's got going on. And I well no, I guess one big thing, yeah, I should talk about first is like the plot twist of the Upside Down. this this was probably what I love most about Volume Two. Felt like very like a little bit like Volume Two felt a little bit slow, but like my favorite my favorite element about Volume Two was the twist, knowing about what the Upside Down really is. So we find out from dialogue. So Dustin finds Papa's notebook, Dr. Brenner's journal, and he realizes that um, the Upside Down, it's not another dimension. It's a bridge between Earth and another world. So it's just like this, like little can, like this little cup of giant of matter, like a force of energy that is linking like this that is linking Earth between like this little abyss right here. So and outside of like that little cup that is the Upside Down is nothing, like just this infinite like deep space, death. That's what we learned from Dustin. And I didn't break down like I didn't really talk much about like about this piece, but like throughout all of Volume One, they think that Holly and Matt, oh, that Holly, that we're living with the mindset like that Holly and Max are on the other side of this little wall right here. So Hopper and Eleven find that wall, and we're left with the mindset that this is where we'll find Holly, and this is probably where Max is too, because as we're seeing it. And that's where I just love. So we have like the misdirection of like all the stuff that we've known about the Upside Down for the last 9 years, as well as like where we think Holly and and Max are right now. So it's like two things that are misdirecting our minds. So that's what makes this like little plot twist extra satisfying. That the upside down, the reason it looks like our world is because it's our world. It's a mirror of our world, like linked into this little wormhole. The upside down is not another dimension. It's this wormhole that is mirrored with our world and another. So it's it's just like some very interesting, compelling stuff where you see like these big twists paid off after 9 years, and it explains to you why why is the upside down only visible like in Hawkins and not like everywhere around the everywhere else around the world? Because but no, it's because the upside down is just a bridge that is only connected to Hawkins, because like where he's talking about like the exotic matter, like it's right above Hawkins' lab. So you learn that Dr. Brenner, like he wasn't just like building this lab anywhere. He was building this lab above like this detection where he found like exotic this field of exotic matter. So he built the lab right in the center of this little wormhole, and that we've labeled as the upside down. The upside down is not just the upside down. It is a wormhole. And just seeing like the like it's just cool, like even seeing the angle, like the way they visualize it, where Steve's car like gets sucked into the wall, and then like how as it's getting sucked out, like how it cuts to this like wide shot where you see like the whole cup, and like seeing like this is what the upside down actually is. The upside down is not another dimension. The upside down is a wormhole. It's just like very satisfying stuff where you see these twists. Like even with Dustin saying like, "Geez, everything that we thought about the upside down this whole time has been dead wrong." So just a compelling twist, and then it's where you kind of see Vecna's actual plan inside of all this, like that he's using these kids like for his like little convergence of reuniting. It's not clear how he's doing this. Like they're saying like two worlds are merging together, and but but you just have like you just have the mindset of like what, because even like where you get the lines from lines of dialogue from Dustin, but even knowing Vecna's plan in general, like that when this if this bridge collapsed, like if Vecna succeeds at what he's doing, like trying to destroying this bridge to like link the abyss to Earth, like everyone dies. So interesting, like interesting new stuff added in there, and like it's nice like that we have a new plan. Like we're doing like this new kind of end goal for Vecna, like a way that he's doing his plan of like using a bunch of these kids. But it makes you wonder like if he's doing this, if this is part of his plan, what was he doing in season 4 with like all the 4 chimes? Or I guess like, well, I mean it's clear, like I mean he was opening more gates, like trying to link the upside down like closer to his world. So maybe I guess maybe that could be it, to like get into contact with these kids a little closer. But I mean it's not like he hasn't done this before. So I mean and he started this whole deal like way back when he first got Will. So I mean if this is his plan now, like I don't know what was he doing in season 4? Like I don't know. That's confusing stuff. But those are my final thoughts on. There's not much to talk about with some of these characters. That's where was the thing. Like some of these guys didn't get much. Like there's not really much to talk about with Mike in this season. Like same old stuff. Like he's concerned about 11. He's working as the leader of the party. I guess there's one thing, like Mike has kind of stepped back into this role of like being the leader of the party, like just a little bit, while Dustin is stuck in the upside down. Um, Lucas, he's watching Max in the hospital, but I mean he doesn't get much to do in these, like he doesn't get much to do in these episodes, like that I thought was interesting at least. Um, there was Murray gets some moments, but like his little jokes and tweaks in there, it's like nice that they keep playing the joke of him like being Santa Claus and all that. That's like, since he's sending them like supplies and stuff like that, but they don't feel as fresh as like his past material that he's been able to work with. And there's Erica had like a little moments, had little moments in there. Like, it was funny, like when she goes to the house and where she's like trying to where she's drugging the family, and she's like and they're playing her as like she's a serial killer or something like that, where the girl's like, Erica, call 911, and she's like, I told you to call 911. It's like, I told you to eat your damn pie. And then the way the girl screams it just plays hilarious, that we're treating Erica like she's like, they're playing it as if Erica's like a serial killer or something like that. That was a funny little sequence. But there's not much else. I mean, we also got Derek in here, like, interesting new character, because they it felt like they tried to, because he's supposed to be a major plot device in episode episode 4, where we're doing the Great Escape stuff. It felt like they tried to like give him some personality and like an identity, like a certain identity, where he's like this annoying little kid that's like a bully, hated by his whole class. And like, I feel like they overplayed it. They overplayed it a little too much. Like, they were trying too hard to convince us that he was a bully and that he was annoying, when he didn't really have that many uh bullying and annoying things to do in this season. Like, the dialogue that we hear about him, they played his identity out more with the dialogue that we hear about him than the characterization, the actual characterization that we get than when we do meet him. So, and so it felt like they overplayed him. They were trying to oversell him as being this annoying little kid, like, when he didn't really have that many things to do in this season. And even when he was on screen, like, it still felt like they overplayed it. Like, but anyway, not much to say about Derek. I'm talking. I'm zooming through all this stuff because like I've been talking for over an hour and 40 minutes. But so in conclusion, so that's my horror review and breakdown for Stranger Things season 5, episodes 1 through 7. And posting this a day right before the finale comes out, probably not a good idea, especially probably by the time I'm posting this, we already have like hours until the finale actually airs. But I just wanted to get my general thoughts on like these first few episodes, like, as quickly as possible. Um, just just an interesting new season, but a season, like a set of episodes that I think had a lot more flaws than they had like wins. You know, with a couple of these character dynamics, they had wins in there, but there were a couple of frustrating things inside the season. I guess, like, talking about most of this stuff. Um, that's anyway. This is the first time I've done one of these. Like, tried to come out like the best I can in some of these tales, but I should probably stop talking before I wear out my phone with all of this information. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll probably have more last minute Stranger Things theory videos. Who's most likely to die and who's least likely to die. I might not. Who knows? Like, if I it depends on how long it takes me to finish editing this video and get it posted. But thank you so much for watching. If this is the first time you've seen me, my name is Micah, from Mike the Great Studios, and be sure to like and subscribe if you liked hearing my general thoughts on this whole season. And I can't wait until the finale actually airs. I'm actually seeing it. I'm not seeing it on the 31st when it's airing. I'm seeing it on New Year's Day. So the first day of 2026, I'm seeing it in the theater. Like, instead of watching it like when it first drops, I want to see it in the theater to get the actual impact. So might not hear my thoughts on that like until like a while later. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.